Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at a sports simulation game, this one right here called Golf and Roll by Jose Mendez, and it is put out by Last Level Games. Now this is a golf simulation game where you're going to be rolling dice to determine how far your ball travels and whether it travels accurately. Wind and weather is going to be taking an effect as well. So let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works, and then we'll come back after that with some final thoughts. So here I have set up for you a just basic representation of a game of golf and roll. Now the point of golf and roll is you can play it like regular golf where you're trying to score the least number of points, beat par, all this other kind of stuff, and play through a certain number of holes determined by the group, or you can play through all 9 of the holes, whatever you'd like. Here specifically I have course 3 set up for you, and it's comprised of a number of course cards, a number of green cards, and then a number of hole cards that are predetermined by the actual hole number here. So you have 3 course cards, 1 green card, and 1 hole card. Here you have a strike count card, and you have a token that's going to be used to track how many strikes you have on the actual course. And then you have some tokens here that will be used. If you go over par, you'll be taking some reds. If you go under par, you'll be taking some blues. And that's how you kind of keep quote-unquote score throughout the course of the game. Each player is going to be given a player card with a special ability. For example, this lady here is explosive. So before rolling for distance, you may use this skill to add 1 to the value obtained. So she's a powerful hitter. There are other special powers in the game. First of all, there is one called Accurate, where before rolling for distance, you may use this skill and get 1 chance to re-roll that roll. And then you also have one called Lucky, where you may repeat a hole-in-one dice roll. We'll get to that in just a few moments. Or any out-of-the-field result. All right, so that's when you get into trouble. You've messed up on your accuracy roll, but we'll talk more about that later. And then finally, there's Veteran. Before rolling for obstacle, you may use this skill and get a chance to re-roll 1 time. And so there are 4 different special abilities, 1 for each character. And then, of course, you have your ball and your clubs over here. So the first thing you're going to do on your turn is determine your distance shot. And your distance shot is going to be a combination of what die you roll here, either red, yellow, or green, and a combination of whatever club you want to use. So if you want to use your long club, it's going to add 2 distance to the roll. If you use your medium club, it's going to add only 1 distance, and then the short club, you may repeat the direction roll, but that's the second roll that you do. So for example, with a fairway that's only 1, 2, 3, 4 long, maybe I want to just go with we can say, let's go with the long club, and then I'll use the medium strength die here for the actual strength of the shot. So first thing is we put the ball on the starting point, and then we have 2. All right, so we rolled a 2, and we used we used a long club. So that's 2 plus 2, that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is that. Now, the next thing we need to do is roll for direction. And we look at the gem that's up here at the top, and that determines the level of the number of pips, or the number on the white die that we need to roll equal to or above in order to land without any obstacles or any trouble like that. So we're going to go ahead and roll this, and because it's a green gem here from the starting one, we have to roll a 2 or higher. All right, so we rolled a 6. So we definitely passed for direction. Now, at this point, since we rolled a 6 for direction, we have the opportunity, since we're on the hole card here, and we got everything else correct so far, we have the opportunity to roll for a hole-in-one. Okay, so since we reached the hole card exactly, and we rolled a 6 for direction, now we have the chance to re-roll this die and get a number. What we're looking for is a number higher than the number of cards that it traveled to get there. So since we traveled 4 cards, this has to be a 5 or a 6 in order to get a hole-in-one. And it wasn't, it was just a 4, so there's no hole-in-one, but we're just fine on the course here, and we simply put our marker here so that we can denote that we have struck the ball once. And so then on my next turn, I would look at this gem up here, and the color of the gem doesn't matter, but the marking on the gem. As you can see here, there's a little black mark that comes down here. There's also another one that's a little bit more difficult that has a cross on it. But this one is clear. It's a flat gem. That means that it is a non-difficult hole, so to speak. So we're going to roll this die, and we have to get a 2 or more on this one. If this green had something like this, it would have to be a 3 or more, and if it had the plus symbol, it would have to be 4 or more. So we roll this, and we're trying to get 2 or more. We did. So we have struck the ball twice. The par for the course is 3, so we take a -1 and place it in front of us, denoting that we are 1 under par, and then our ball comes back to us like so, and we can move on to the next hole. Now that was a pretty simple, almost a perfect, not really, a hole-in-one would have been perfect, but that was almost a perfect hole that was just rolled. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes when you're rolling for direction, you fail. Something goes wrong. So for example, when we roll for direction, we're looking at the gem that you're starting from. And so since this one here is green, then it would only be a 2 or more. It's pretty simple. The only way you can fail is if you roll a 1. But let's say that it was from this one, you're needing to roll a 4 or more, so it's a 50% chance that you're going to do something bad. What would happen there is that if the distance is rolled and we land here, let's say that, and then we need to figure out, is this going to be a good direction roll? So we roll the white die, we have to get a 4 or higher, and we did. But let's say we didn't, we got a 3. Well, that means that we're going to be in trouble. We flip the card over the token over to its dark side, noting that it's in trouble and something went wrong, which means that determined by how bad we failed the roll, for example, here we failed by 1, it's simply out of the fairway, which means that it's going to be over here in the card like this, but it's flipped over. Now, if we had failed worse than that, let's say we failed with a 1, it would actually be out of the field, which means that the ball would come back to wherever you shot it from first. You add a strike to your strike card, and then you take another shot. But in between there is, you could just be out of the fairway, which means that you have a negative to your ability to roll next turn, and determined by how badly the direction was rolled, you may not be able to use certain kinds of clubs on your next shot. So that is generally how you play golf and roll, just like a regular thing where you can determine the winning conditions. Some of the different things are there are no winning conditions, you just play for fun. That's one way that they say that you can do it. Or you can play it like regular golf where you have a certain number of holes and you're trying to get the lowest score possible, or the closest or lowest away from par. And that's how you play golf and roll. So that's about that for golf and roll. Just a couple of things before we get into our pros and cons. I'm not a golfer. I've never enjoyed golf at all, actually. Now, there have been a couple times where I would, go out to a huge field with my cousins and that type of thing, and hit a few balls out into the woods or what have you. I've done that before, but I've never actually played the game of golf, so that is going to affect some of the things that I say. Maybe I don't have a real firm grasp on how golf works, and I'm absolutely fine with that. But from that perspective, it seems like this game, at least in a very generalistic way, correctly simulates how golf works. You have to be careful with what club you're using, how hard you're going to strike the ball. Sometimes things happen and the wind takes over, or you strike the ball a little bit the wrong way and it careens off into a different area that you weren't expecting. There's a number of different things there. So from my uneducated perspective, it seems like it does a fairly decent job at replicating a golf type experience. Now, some pros and cons about the actual game. Pros are, first of all, the artistic value, in my opinion, for most of the stuff that's in the game is not very good. Now, the character cards, the anime characters, I thought those were very well done. They looked great, and I think it fit the tone of the game. But again, they're a little too, it's not enough there for me to give high marks for the quality, but it works. So I don't know if this is actually a pro or not. It's just kind of in the middle there. Now, for some of the pros, I like the fact that you're rolling dice. I think for all the crud that dice rolling gets for being too random and too chaotic and all of this other kind of stuff, I think in this particular case and in a lot of different kinds of sports games, rolling dice is an effective medium for determining some of those wacky, crazy things that happen in the middle of these sporting events. And here, there is really no exception to that idea. This is a good idea to implement into a golfing game where there are a lot of different variables that maybe that person striking the ball doesn't quite know about. Now, of course, the more you play the game, the more you're going to be able to anticipate some of those variables. But I like the use of dice rolling as a mechanism in this game because it does provide a good, I guess, what I would imagine as an outsider looking in, a good feel for how variable some of those different conditions can be. I also liked the mechanism of having the different cards be the course, and then there's other cards that are going to be the green or the fairway or whatever you call it, and then there's also the hole card. And I liked the different difficulties that were there because it posed, again, one of those things that you're not always able to anticipate, where the course will be a little bit different than you expected it to be. And so striking the ball from this part of the course will be a little bit more difficult than striking it from that part of the course. And I liked that gem difficulty mechanism that was employed on those cards to represent that variableness. I think how they handled the ability to pull off a hole-in-one is also a good, exciting factor for the game. It gave you that thing to try to shoot for, no pun intended, in the middle of your turn. And when we were playing the game, that always provided a level of excitement. And I think that's great. That there was, if you rolled a 6 for your direction and you landed right on the hole card, and you automatically, you're like, oh, I could do good here. And so you try to roll again. And I really do like that because it injects a little bit of excitement into what would otherwise be, my opinion, golf just isn't that exciting. I mean, I know there are these shots that people make, and those particular shots are very exciting and very awesome and mind-blowing, but more often than not, it's hit the ball, walk over to where it is, hit the ball again, walk over to where it is, and now hit it into the hole. Okay, let's go to the next one and do it all over again. Now, as far as the cons for the game are concerned, we've already talked about it a little bit, and this con is really about the artwork. I did like the look of the anime or chibi characters for the character cards. I like those a lot, but I think everything else in the game just felt very generic and very clip artish, and I didn't like it at all. So that's going to be a huge con for me because I'm a very aesthetic person as far as games are concerned. I want to have, I guess you could say, eye candy on the board or on the table as we're playing the game that helps keep me invested and helps keep me in the theme of the game. And this just didn't have that at all. The second con is that, quite frankly, this is boring to play. If possibly we were rolling more dice, maybe that would change it a little bit, but just rolling one die and then doing this, rolling one die, then doing that, rolling one die, and then doing this, that's just a really boring thing, except for when it came for the possible chance of getting a hole in one. Then it picked up a little bit, but then after that was over, it went right back down to where it was before that. So it's kind of a boring game. It's not very fun at all. Maybe if you enjoy golf, and maybe this would be more fun for you. But for me, someone who is not a golfer, doesn't have a desire to play golf or anything like that, this really kind of fell flat for me. It was kind of boring, except for the hole-in-one when you got to try for that. And if you did pull it off, woo! That was a part where you stood and, pumped your chest and all this other kind of stuff, even though it was just a die roll. And you had really nothing to do with it. But anyway, it's kind of boring except for the hole-in-ones. And really, that's about it for Golf and Roll. It's kind of just in the middle of the road for me. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 because I do think that you will have to truly enjoy this game. I think you have to be a fan of golf. And this is going to be something that you can play with your other golf buddies or friends when it's raining outside and you can't go play golf. That's kind of where it's falling. I think if you don't enjoy golf, you're not going to enjoy this game very much. So I'm sorry, that's how that is. 5 out of 10 from me for Golf and Roll. And that's about it. Thanks for joining me. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.